Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Awesome Talk Quarantine Edition number 22 on January 15th, 2021. Welcome to the show, everybody. Obviously, it's a theme now. I say the same thing every show. It's since the last show. And this one, a whole world of horrible things have happened or crazy things or, definitely things that are crazy, no doubt. So tonight, what can I say? Where do we even start, guys? Where do we even begin? Who wants to start?
Where are we? What? First of all, 22nd episode, huh?
Yeah.
Think about that. Just think about that. Reflect on that for a second. 22nd episode of the Quarantine Edition.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that. How are we all dealing with this?
Yeah.
It's still running around. And on top of that, all the madness that's taking place, in general.
Yeah.
Can I express something that I'm concerned about, that I have been having a conversation with a couple of people over the last 2 days?
Please give us a window into your thoughts.
Well, the thoughts that I've been having are not so much that they're not so much of fear. They're more so of curiosity. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what I think yet, but I do know that in the event that this does turn into something quite unattractively violent, which, and by that I mean the transition of power. I've been reading a bunch of articles over the past couple, like maybe 48 hours or so, and there's been a couple of opinion pieces, a couple of other pieces that have come out in reference to the internet, basically disenfranchising Trump and media circles giving him less publicity moving forward, because the fear is that because he's the biggest well-known person out there and he controls all of that multimedia power by having his brand out there like that in the transition of power, if he wants to continue to kick and scream like a child and turn this into something ugly, that it could turn quite violent at the tip of a hat. And I feel like it's only going to get worse after he's not the president. And the slander and the misinformation is going to bubble over more than it already has. And my question is, and the thing I've been trying to deal with and try to figure out is in the event that this does turn into some sort of a civil war, and there's so many things we can talk about tonight, and I've become very, I have to be honest with you, I've been pretty passive most of the time that we've had conversations about all this. I do get passionate about things, but in the last week or so, 2 weeks maybe, and since the Capitol shit, I've been angry, embarrassed as an American, not worried, but embarrassed.
Oh, now you're embarrassed?
Not worried, and now you're embarrassed.
Dude, you just wake up and you just feel shame the second you open your eyes. That's my existence.
I wasn't embarrassed in the way, prior I was embarrassed for the fact that was the president that we chose to put up in office. But and I am internationally embarrassed, but now just embarrassed to know that what this has done in the last 2 weeks for me is really shown more so than ever, put a pin in how undereducated and ridiculous a good amount of Americans are, and people that are close to me that I thought had a moral compass that don't, people that I know that are looking at us internationally and thinking, Jesus Christ, and so the conversation for the last 48 hours that I've had with a couple of people in academia was, in the event that there's some form of civil war, if you want to call it that, because I wouldn't even call it that. I don't think it would erupt to something so ridiculous. But where do these people think they're going to go, and who do they think they're fighting? And when it comes down to it, I understand the revolutionary rhetoric, the frustration, the anti-governmentalism and all of that shit, but it has become so clouded in what people know and don't know, or understand and don't understand, and their capability or ability to understand how they would go about it and why they're angry in the first place. And politics across the spectrum have a lot to do with that. And it bothers me that people in seats of power that have been elected. I mean, we have elected officials now that are QAnon conspiracy theorists, and we have people that, with the weight of their words, can express their opinions. And I don't know, or maybe they know, or maybe I don't know if they know what that does to a population that encouraged themselves to vote for that person in the beginning based not on their politics or their agenda, but the fact that they felt like they had something in common with nutty shit like that. And that's the terrifying part. And that's the worrisome part about it, is that I feel like I've actually hit a point where I'd rather know there was a corrupt politician getting money back than to know that there's wingnuts in fucking Congress. And that's terrible. That's fucking terrible. And I'm trying to compartmentalize it all. And not having been at work for quite some time, and not having what I consider to be academic conversations or intelligent conversations with a lot of people. I mean, we meet every 2 weeks, if that, and
we're an intelligent conversation. Thanks, Rob.
Don't ruin it for yourself. but no, just in general with the pandemic and everything, like, I don't have a lot of conversations in general about politics or about things that are going on. Not conversations that I can have with open-minded people, and you don't want to get too in depth with that on a normal basis. But when I'm at work, it's what I do for a living, and it's I was having a conversation today with somebody that's in the same profession as I am, and it's really hard because that I happen to be I happen to be in a job where my whole discipline is probably the most difficult to have to teach at a time like this. It's the most difficult to have to bring facts up in a world where people have opposing quote unquote facts and live in alternate truths and never versed themselves in the basis of the understanding before they even ventured off into the crazy nut shit cavern.
All right, so I have my own theory, and I'm going to ask you, I guess, is it a crazy nut shit?
Was just talking about.
Yeah, I'm asking, is this a crazy nut shit theory? So one of the things that always has stuck out in my mind that I can draw basically a line back to, in a moment in history. There was an interview with a Republican head where they were talking about and multiple Republican heads, and they all have this aha moment. It was when the Obama administration came in and the Democrats took over the White House, the Senate, and the Congress. The Republicans said they were like, "Oh, our party's over, and it was like this huge amount of depression. And it was that night or the next day, somebody said, "We resist," and then everybody started smiling, and everybody got smiles on their face. Like, to me, the fact, like, I think that if it might have been before that, but you can't have a society that lives in perpetual war, right? And just have them be okay with the government forever. So of course, they're gonna get to a point, right, where, like, they're like, oh, we just resist, and then so no matter what the side is on one side, you have the other side with an opposite perspective, disregarding whatever reality is, just always something opposite, to the point where now the topics become such a vast field of shit that the entire fucking population signs on board to have this retarded ass civil war, and it's just basically these two parties fighting it out for fucking power. Because if the Republican Party was actually scared for their party's existence, then starting a civil war would be an excellent way to roll the dice to see who comes out on top.
And the shitty part about what you just said is I feel like so. Anybody here?
Could that be far from the truth, Rob? I mean, I don't.
Well, what is actually the question that you're asking me then? What like
that
would they benefit from a civil war?
Well, my question is if in what shape or form? First of all, a couple of questions here though. Okay, because if we're talking civil war historically in our country, you know, when you talk about civil war, it's a unified body against another unified body, right? And there needs to be something unifying that body. So when and how would they meet? And in my opinion, and not to sound so, I'm not completely dismissing it, but okay. So let me put this in perspective, in terms of what Stones just asked me. So today, if you guys have followed the news at all, the NRA filed for bankruptcy. The NRA filed for bankruptcy and is moving out of the state of New York, and they cited political indifferences and too difficult to have a platform in New York, obviously because it's run by Democrats, so they don't want to deal with it. So they're trying to build up to remove themselves from New York and then move to Texas. So in the event that were to happen, you know that the NRA is going to back anything that has to be gun related, and of course insurrection is gun related as well, because that's what people are backing, the Second Amendment, all that crazy, you know, like the gun toting stuff, which is fine. And the opinion on that is that there are no liberals with guns, which is a complete and utter fucking ridiculous stereotype. So aside from that, where's the headquarters of this insurrection going to take place? And my question has always been, because I've been asked by students for the last probably 12 years about whether or not I thought another civil war could ever happen. And my question is, how? And this is where part of my question came in, Stones, is that I'm a bit confused about, because in the event that there was something that would turn into an eruption, if you will, right? We would automatically think, or at least off the bat, I automatically would think, okay, these are a couple of militia-ass, 30, 40 guys with AR-15s stacked up to the masses with all the add-ons and some military fatigues and some, makeshift Instagram shit they bought to be
and mandals.
Cool. Yeah, the whole non-military person who's just a strategic gun owner or whatever you want to call it, and my thought process on that is, okay, so you got those guys, and what are they going to do against fucking drones? But then I started thinking, well, fucking Christ, man. The woman that just died in the Capitol is a veteran.
Ton of veterans in there, man. How many?
Well, my question is, based on what I saw at the Capitol, knowing that in the middle of that Capitol shit, there were off-duty police officers, there were people that are still active in the military, people that are inactive in the military, there were and then I think to myself, well, how does that split upon lines? How do police departments fall into this? And how do people that already are sanctioned in government and state positions fall into a coup/insurrectionist, anti-democratic overthrow? And I'm
because it's too disorganized. And so you're thinking what you're basically saying is Americans are too disorganized, or the movement, if that movement were to come out, would be too disorganized.
Dude, can we just talk about? Sarah,
I don't know.
Can we just talk about for a second that Egypt overthrew their fucking government using Twitter? Like they didn't need like a meeting place. Body. You know, yeah.
That's what I mean. I think that the problem that we leave out now, right? And this is the thing that I think a lot of people who are for civil. I mean, I saw videos of that Capitol with people wearing prefabricated sweatshirts that said Civil War 2021 on them,
right.
And like they were at a fucking concert, like they were at an event that they were happy to be part of, and.
Were they a lot of the same shirt? Like, did somebody make a bunch of the same one, or were they different?
Yeah. They were wearing them like they showed up as a family supporting the civil, like as if it was a Disney fucking trip, 2021.
Right.
And what bothers me about that is that they found it entertaining to want to be part of something that is quite literally the worst thing that has ever happened on American soil by Americans.
It's an entertainment revolution.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Because a lot of these people that were coming out of those areas, though, they are from the Midwest and the Deep South. These are people that glorify the Civil War, like as if it's something that's supposed to be remembered in its glory. And
so here's my only rebuttal to that, Rob, is that I've talked to a very nonpartisan, very engaged, very smart individual who was pretty high up in the military way back when, and he tells me that overall there's a lot of cages being rattled, and one of the things that the National Guard doesn't like to attack its own people, but when it comes to like other branches of the military, they want to come home because they want to have peace at home, and and the narrative in their community is that there's not peace at home.
Well, there isn't peace.
And can I also just say one thing to that, Stones?
The fireworks ain't nothing what they can come up with because they were all trained to come up with better shit.
You know what, Stones? Interestingly enough, when the government deployed their military in Egypt on the people, the military sided with the people and turned on the government.
No, you don't understand. Okay, all right, all right. That would be basically
unified body.
Unified body.
That's textbook, man. So
the bad element exists, but the good element of that isn't existing. So there is some level of organization. I think there's
But think about how complicated this is now, right? This isn't us against them, right? It's not like so from my perspective. And I think that also to Pat's point about the unified body, keep in mind, we're 50 states. We're 50 motherfucking countries, dude. We're not Egypt. You know what I mean? We are 50 countries under one umbrella. So every population in every state would have to agree in order for it to become a unified body making a move against things.
Yeah, but I don't think even Republicans will agree with it.
Right.
And it's going to be Trump party versus Republicans versus Democrats and versus the National Guard and the military because of the Insurrection Act.
And can I just say that in the comments, Pat said there's a Republican Party and there is a Trump Party.
Which one of us would have ever predicted? Which one of us would have ever predicted that the right wing would finally get some third party in somehow? It's a terrible one, but
they don't think it's a third party. They think it's their party and that their actual party has turned on them. You get what I mean? Like when they're calling for Pence to be hanged because he's a traitor, they think that they're upholding their party and Pence isn't. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, to them, it's not a third party. To them, it's them restoring their party to its glory.
So what is it like? Is it just going to be capital and lowercase Republican?
It seems that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't even really call
Democrats are lowercase Republican, dude.
No, you can't.
Well,
even call
I mean,
them
that's
Republicans.
if you think back to our actual Civil War, right? Our Civil War in 1860 was they were not Democrats the way you think Democrats, right? They were a confederation of angry landowners, right? They had a movement together because of economic instability and frustration with an abolitionist movement.
Right. They weren't fighting for gay marriage.
Right. When we were young,
grand old party. Yeah, I get it.
Right. When we were young, right? When we were young, and it was the late 80s, early 90s. I was a Rage Against the Machine advocate. I was an anti-governmentalist. I didn't like the regimes I grew up underneath. I was not a fan of the Reagan or Bush administrations, the Clinton administration. I didn't like any of that shit, but I knew from a very young age that politicians were full of shit. A majority of them. Some of them go in with good intentions. Some of them have a lot of great ideas, and some of them have things that turn them very quickly. But I think that ultimately the concerning aspect of that now is that this isn't just, well, we as the people don't like the government going to war, or we as the people don't like the way the government instituted this thing. Now it's, well, this group doesn't like this a whole lot, and this group likes that but doesn't like this a whole lot. And it's such anger and tension between people who actually, if you really want to sit back and have a conversation between them, have a lot more in common than they do frustration with each other. It's been this one guy, this one linchpin, that's been able to aggravate people and, in a way, separate people on the most minimal scale of things, to the point that people came in after this Capitol fucking thing. And my only thought process after this was, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
So you don't think that Portland could be, the fact that they're battling it out, and the groups are so loosely affiliated with each other, but like it's hard to tell who's on what side with the whole thing. But I watched the whole thing on Vice. I know Vice, whatever, but it was on Antifa, and the reporter at one point was out at these fucking apparently nightly battles that are pretty small and contained, apparently, but every night they're like kicking each other's asses and fucking throwing crazy explosive, minimally explosive, but or pipe bombs and shit like that at each other, but like small scale ones and shit. Dude, it's fucked up, man. Like we live here in this little bubble here in this country of the world, but there's other parts of the fucking country that are just seem to be popping off every night. Like, man.
It's creeping into everything too, man. I mean, look, dude, like it was only a few months ago, there were riot police 5 miles away from my house. So like, it's,
well, I mean, so what got me really kind of perturbed over this whole thing is that at that point in time, it was like, I can't have a low level conversation anymore about this shit. You're either with them or you're against them, and that's fucking it. You know what I mean? And that's, and what bothered me about that is I didn't really go back into social media too much after that. But when I did, or when I had a conversation just in passing with people about the events, I think that the reactions by people who liked Trump before that, I waited to see how they justified this. And I didn't comment on anybody's post. I just scanned through a couple of them and looked at shit and just watched the rebuttals back and forth over what people had to say.
Did you feel that ultimately people, because I felt like I saw less defensiveness than I expected. That's not to say I didn't see a lot of it. Okay, no, it's not to say I didn't see a stupid amount of it, but it was less than I thought.
I don't think that I saw less defensiveness. I think I didn't see a lot of comments. I think a lot less people decided to share their opinions about it rather than people defending it. But what I will tell you is that the people that were defending it, here's I'll be honest with you. This is what fucked me all up. I've been going to Washington, D.C. for probably about 15 straight fucking years. I have a card to get into the Library of Congress. I research right on Pennsylvania Avenue. I have been to those chambers. I have been in that Capitol building probably about 11 times. And I have had to go through double security every time and know with my own heart that I'm not supposed to do anything in that place other than look, respect, take some pictures, and get the fuck up on out of there. right?
Yeah, man, it looks like it was built yesterday when you walk around there. It's fucking pristine, man.
It's a fucking sacred chamber, man. It is, and to watch a bunch of quote unquote patriots defile the one motherfucking thing in our country's history next to the White House that solidifies our government and our founding fathers and what our country stands for as a democracy, with the greatest of waltz right the fuck in there and know that they were barely fucking stopped, to know that police departments were called off from helping any of that insurrection, and to know that they waltzed in there and defiled that fucking place because of shit that was fucking talked about publicly by elected officials and backed by people because of their own self-serving aspirations and their own demagoguery.
That's what
crazy.
That's what kills me about what you just said.
Crazy.
You know, like Pat had said something like, I don't give a fuck about all this. I just want these people to do some work. And I he's talking about the impeachment. And I agreed to an extent. And it's like, look, man, like when your government is fucking you over horrifically, you're supposed to rise up and change that shit. And I'm all for that. So in a way, to me, people getting into a politician's office who's a piece of shit is something I don't particularly care about. What bothers me and what I care about is that the people that did this, the hypocrisy from them is what bothers me. So it's like what you're saying is you don't trust the government unless it's this guy and his people. And it's like, well, that's fucking wrong too. So it's actually more wrong. Like you couldn't possibly have backed the wrong horse more than Donald Trump or his fucking ilk. So the hypocrisy of it is the hypocrisy of what and the shit that we've heard in the last few years about Black Lives Matter and how they're terrorists and respect the police. And then you turn on the fucking news and there's a guy beating a cop with an American flag on a pole. Wearing a Blue Lives Matter shirt. And I'm like, how is this reality to you people?
The level of Hippocratic irony and patriots, right? Quote unquote patriots carrying the American flag who, 4 years ago were fucking pissed about monument tear downs and people doing defiling things.
That's what I mean.
Breaking windows in the Capitol building.
Not just that, dude. There were guys setting fires. They were putting out pipe bombs. Like the shit that we saw in the news was not even a quarter of what was really going on. And when I saw what they kept airing on the news on repeat, it just seemed to me to be like, oh, look at this bunch of fucking hillbillies breaking into the Capitol. This doesn't even look like it was bad, but I was I kind of understood why they opened the gates, because it's like if your livestock is getting antsy, you open the barn and let them out. You know what I mean? And then they'll run themselves out, and then they'll go back out, back in the barn.
Doesn't that feel like the plan? Doesn't that feel like the plan?
So to me, I kind of felt like, okay, they kind of felt like, all right, these guys are idiots. We don't know how many of them there are. They look more organized than we thought, but they're also idiots. And there's a lot of guns here. We don't know who has what. It might be better to just open the door and let them walk through and think that they're doing something while we get the fucking, I'd like to say while we get the National Guard in here, but that took 3 hours. Listen, I just want to read the comments. I don't want to get too far behind the comments. Mike Pepe said the trumpets is an ideology. It's really more of a cult, which is frightening. We've talked about that a bunch of times. He also said Vice used to be good. Vice, I think, teeters back and forth between good and what the fuck is this? Why are you writing about this? And Madison asked, Rob, do you think that Trump deserves to be impeached? And, I'll just to jump in front of you for a second. I don't know if it's a question of whether or not he deserves to. I think the question is, do we need him to be impeached for the good of our own future?
Giuliani is going to get this motherfucking barred. Like, I don't know if y'all
Hold on, I want Rob to answer the question.
He flat out absolutely fucking. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, Rob.
No, go ahead. Talk about Giuliani.
I have nothing to say about that fucking asshole.
How in the way that man,
whether or not he should be impeached, like. Yes, obviously he fucking should be impeached. Like, anyway, I'll let Rob talk about it.
I mean, I don't think impeachment. I think to most people, impeachment means that it's a giant waste of taxpayers' money and investigatory bullshit. But I don't. I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is the impeachment is being pushed because they don't want him to be able to run for president again. I honestly don't think it matters at this point because once he's out of office, he's going to get charged with so much shit just in general that he's going to have to defend in court.
What I know, he's got the investigation with the tax shit in New York. What else is what other charges is he facing?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact list of shit, but I definitely know that he has. Well, now they want to charge him with inciting insurrection, and if that case goes through, man, he's fucked. That's fucking done. If they can prove that in court, that through his words and through his actions, he caused whatever just happened, that's fuck tax evasion or tax shit and international shit. But I think I think at the end of the day, he's got so much shit that's going to go on that it's kind of sad because he could, in the event that he lives long enough to run for president again, because I mean these guys are hitting even Biden. I mean these guys are going to hit 80, and
yeah,
the stress. First of all, I mean, what's he going to do with himself if he can't be on a social media platform? What's he going to do with himself once he's not in the limelight? Everything's going to become a need for him to get a television show contract.
Yeah, I think in a weird way because of his blackout, that in some bizarre way he becomes stronger in circles. It validates him more in certain hive minds, I guess would be a way to say it.
Yeah. Madison, I don't know. I don't know if he needs to be impeached. Do I think that in any other, this was his second year of his presidency? Yeah, without a doubt. Does it something that needs to be rushed in the next 5 days? I don't know. Yeah, Pat. I think Pat said bank fraud. Pat said bank fraud in New York. I think there's a laundry list of types of fraud in New York that he could be charged with.
Also, I know he's doing insurance fraud. That's a thing.
Dude, he's ripped off so many government programs in New York. He's ripped off so many different styles of real estate investment. And, these are things that probably are not as illegal as we think. There are probably a lot of loopholes and a lot of provable shit that they could get him by on. But yeah. I do think that
here's the thing. Once you get a company to a certain scale, the chaos and the disorder and the things that can get lost in the mix and can be blamed on, 3,000 people making error by default, and then you get away with it.
So hold on, I just want to clarify a comment. So Madison said, no, I'm asking if you guys think Trump incited the riots because he did say peaceful protest, but he tried to stop Biden from being certified with the vote. So I wanted to see what Rob thought. And I just wanted to say that there's a lot of different ways to communicate with people. And Trump uses a lot of really particularly manipulative language to get people to do what he wants. And he's particularly good at separating himself just far enough from it with the way he speaks to make it seem like he's not inciting things. Trump knew.
He's got it down.
Trump knew. Listen. I've been an
idiot savant in that
level. And a lot of people in this group, I've been on stage a long time. I know what you have to say to move a group of people who are paying attention to you.
When you're the lighting guy.
And right, Stones, you're the lighting guy. You shut up.
Or the DJ, whatever. It's fucking, who cares?
He uses the Charles Manson playbook. If you ever notice.
How do you mean?
Like with the psychological
you're exactly
and
right,
stuff like
dude.
that.
I was thinking the exact same thing earlier today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that whole thing that happened, he knew he was talking to a volatile crowd. I mean, he ran back to the White House just to turn on the TV to see what happened. So, from where I'm sitting, it's like there are a lot of different ways to communicate outside of speaking. And his body language, even his facial expression. Look at the way a Trump supporter breaks down what they think Donald Trump is telling them. The amount of times these assholes have tweeted, "Yes, Mr. President, standing back and standing by." You know what I mean? Like, he said some dumbass fucking bullshit off the top of his head, and now every dumbass militia idiot in the country is repeating what he said because they think they're receiving messages from the president. So, in my mind, if a guy who's holding as much power as Donald Trump needs to understand that communication is far more than just words, and I think he needs to... I'm sorry. Let me rephrase what I said. He knows that the way he communicates is with more than just words. And I think that...
without a doubt.
And I'm not sure what he thought might happen, but I'm saying he didn't give a shit what happened. So...
You know, somebody called me today, and Pat just said that he's using the Manson playbook, right? That's what you said, the Manson playbook?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people aren't recognizing the fact that somebody called me today and was like, "Hey, did you see the Showtime documentary on the Reagans yet?" So there's a 4-part series on Showtime on the Reagans, and I'm going to watch it as soon as we get off of here.
Yeah, he was an evil fuck.
But you know, as a historian, I obviously know Reagan's administration. I know what the fuck went on, and I had just actually finished watching the Netflix documentary on crack. There's a piece that was done on crack cocaine. It's about like an hour and 20 minutes long. But the Iran-Contra affair that was going on under Reagan's administration was something that I knew a whole shit ton about. You know what I mean? Like, I knew what was going on. And that's how, you know, if you really research, that's how a lot of crack cocaine showed up in here, through the Nicaraguan Contra affair. But what the guy called me about today was like, he said, you know, I used to call myself a Reagan Republican. And after watching this docuseries, and this fucking hits me, man. This hits me hard, because this has been a guy I've been friends with for 20 plus years. And I actually never knew he was a Republican. I never knew he was a Republican, because that's what true Republicans are. You don't know that they're Republicans. They're just people who enjoy fiscal responsibility and are conservative. That's it. They don't go out there.
At its core, that's how I understood it.
Right.
But now it's some other shit, Rob.
But think about what I'm saying. He viewed himself as a Reagan Republican. So he is 40. You know what I mean? So he's 37 years old. So he grew up thinking, like his parents, that was Republicanism. You know, that was the core of it, was that nice conservative business mentality of the Reagan Republican idea, until he watched this fucking documentary. And the documentary, because that Make America Great Again slogan of Trump is Reagan's slogan.
Right.
That's not Trump's slogan. So he watched it, and he said, Rob, I'll be fucking honest with you. He's fucking Reagan. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, he is, but he's not. And he was like, well, he's Reagan, and Reagan was kind of Trump.
Yeah, he's Reagan with a foul mouth.
And I was like, when you say it that way, yeah. And that's why those people back him. You know, that's why some of them love that note. They're thinking, well, Reagan's that, you know, that 50s actor, that fucking star who's, you know, who is, you know, people who love Reagan fucking, like, would blow Reagan.
Totally.
If they were offered. And I find that very odd, because it's one, like, and don't get me wrong, people were nuts about Obama in certain ways. I happen to really like Obama when he first came out because of the way that he spoke. But we've talked about it on the show a million times. Within 8 years, you start to see the wool come off the clothing, and all of a sudden it's well, sure. The speaking is great, but what's really going on with our government over here, and what's going on over here, and why are we dropping bombs over here? And, you know, so all the great talking you're doing domestically here doesn't mean shit while you're killing innocent people all over the fucking place, which was Reagan's fucking MO.
100%, 100%.
You know, I say to people all the time, I'm like, if you don't understand what happened.
Wait. Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, all bombs.
Yeah,
100%, 100%, dude. Look, man, dude, I fucking ranted on Facebook about this the other day, and I was like, look, man, like you can if I had to choose between Obama or Trump as president right now, I mean, I pick Obama only because people I care about feel safer under Obama. But ultimately,
and I can hear logical, fundamental sentences put together and hear like a normal person fucking talk.
Right.
Doesn't mean I agree with them, and I don't want to.
But ultimately, I got to ask myself how much that matters when I'm being fucked over behind the scenes and children are being bombed in Afghanistan. So what I'm saying is that the last several presidents, Republican or Democrat, have been funneling over 90% of our tax dollars through the fucking Pentagon, and it just keeps happening over and over again. And I feel like every other squabble that takes place is so fucking microscopic in comparison to the fact that
this right here, this topic should be the thing that unifies all of us.
Thank you.
100%.
Well, listen, here's another thing though. Here's a problem with that, because you got to understand that. Well, I don't mean you have to understand. It sounds like I'm talking down to you. So I don't mean what I mean is that when you talk, when you say exactly, it's what I felt like I was saying when I it just comes out of my mouth when I say that. Anyway, so my point, right? My point is this: is one thing people are in denial about, right? And I have to be very clear about this. 9/11 justified everything from 2001 onward. Right? So it justified everything. But 9/11 happened 11 years after Reagan instituted all of that shit. So people need to, before they could ever be unified under that stones, need to have clarity of mind, particularly people in the tri-state area who lost a lot of people in the bombing. I mean, the planes, the dropping of the towers. Yeah. So until they understand and objectively gather the idea that it's not a conspiracy theory, it was bound to fucking happen, and there's a reason why it happened, and it wasn't because of something that took place a year before that or a month before that. It was a buildup. It's our involvement in international affairs that caused that to happen, right? And they don't understand that. And they don't understand that. And they don't understand the fact that our United States government corruptly interfered with international shit for the sake of making fucking money.
Yeah.
Our
history is a career of that shit.
Dude, this shit is on record. Like, there's record Congress meetings of people saying we shouldn't do this. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. And they were looked at as shithead fucking Democrats who didn't agree with Reagan. And even Reagan's Republicans were like, maybe we shouldn't do that.
But the bigger mess you make, the more you have to clean up, the more money there's to be made cleaning up the mess. That's
we didn't clean anything up. We just kept funneling the cash out there.
Dude, bullshit. And I call bullshit on it because when we first went into Afghanistan and we bombed the piss out of it, we sent a shit ton of contractors over there paying them fucking top dollar to rebuild a ton of shit in that region. That's 100% true.
Isn't it amazing how they keep embroidering the same cash back into the same pockets over and over again? Right? I'm going to pay these people over here to bomb the fuck out of this, and then I'm going to pay my other people over here, or I'm going to get paid over here to rebuild it.
It's to rebuild it.
Oh yeah, in a macro microcosmic world of that, right? People like talking about how the Illuminati causes world events to take place. We are a proponent of that shit. Like, we are the fucking money that drives that shit to happen in other areas, in an imperialistic way that many people don't even fucking understand. But they rooted on in the name of the military.
Is how little the rest of the world knows that we actually have that our dollar spends on anymore. The fact that the vast bulk of us don't have any of, we're our dollar, if you compare it to overseas currency, it has value, but it doesn't make any sense because
we don't have a pot to piss in. There's nothing to back the dollar at all. It's all just false loans and fucking debts to everybody. It's make believe.
Yeah, I would pass that subject right over to Pat because he knows that shit better than anybody I know in the fucking world, dude.
Well, Pat, you're into cryptocurrency at this point, right?
Yeah, I know about it. Why?
So, how do you feel about real currency at this point?
What do you mean real currency?
Like, where are we?
like gold?
Well, yeah. So every 30 to 45 years, there's a major currency shift, right? Historically, there's always been some form of currency shift, and there's always been some kind of.
What direction is it headed?
rallying. Well, no, rallying for including so for many years people rallied around the silver standard over to gold standard, or rallied around this kind of integration of different types of funding. And when the Bitcoin movement started, people thought of it as something that was jokingly going to die out in like 6 months, and there was a huge spike, and then it fell off a little bit, but it hasn't gone away. It's not going to go away.
The thing that fucks me up with Bitcoin is that it's a giant middle finger and fuck you to throwing carbon out into the atmosphere. That's my fucking big problem with fucking Bitcoin, and the fact that people are just submitting to that, that bothers me.
Well, I mean, we're moving to a point where
only on a small scale does it dump CO2 because people are doing it in their house. Most of these facilities use green energy. It's like all renewable solar power. They use hydroelectric. I'm telling you, most of the farms are using
what I'm saying to you is a lot of this renewable energy is toxic as shit. And don't fucking,
what about geothermal?
Don't get it twisted, Pat. Okay.
It takes geothermal, but there's a limited number of spaces that you can put.
Yeah, and all these farms are moving right next to these plants in all these countries. That's what they're doing right now.
So my question is then, what are we looking at in your opinion now in terms of interchangeable currency? Is cash and
they're not going to use Bitcoin, that's for sure. I know
that for sure.
The only value that Bitcoin really brings to the table is the network itself. It's like a giant network now. It's unbreakable. Like nobody's going to ever hack it. A lot of these other coins they can hack with like one computer if they wanted to, or like one mining facility. But the future of crypto is definitely going to be like stable coins, like tied to the dollar or like worth one of itself all the time. It's never going to go up or down, and that's going to be what governments use. That's going, that they're not going to want to use something that goes up $10,000 in a day. They're going to want something that's stable, and they call them stable coins.
So your belief is that the American economic tools that are available in our current administration or the Fed or whoever's controlling the actions behind our currency, you don't think that their tools are at this juncture exhausted? You think they're stable?
I think they have at least another like 5-10 years before they fucking give up. But they're definitely going to have to move to a digital currency eventually. It only makes sense. Fiat just doesn't make sense anymore. There's nothing to it. At least with a stable coin, we'll be able to see the blockchain. There'll be something substance behind it, some kind of math. Whether there's faith or not, there's going to be math behind it.
Will there be accountability? You think? Will we actually know where
they're going to know everything?
Well, they are, but is that going to be open to the public to know who's?
If they do it on a public blockchain, anybody can look at it. Yeah, anybody, but would it be able to see anybody's wallet though? And that's the problem with it. So they're probably not going to have it a public blockchain.
Why is that a problem with it? Is it hackable? I mean, or is it easy?
Well, think about like I could just look you up and see what your bank account has in it. Right. You want that?
Well, once upon a time, man, Americans used to be able to see each other. When taxes first came out, we used to be able to see each other's taxes, which gave away how much we all made.
Right. But do you want it that way?
Oh, I don't give a fuck. I'm not in any position to care what anybody knows how little I make.
I'm sure there's quite a large amount of people in this country that does not want anybody to see what they make because they're going to be doxxed, they're going to be robbed, they're going to have their homes invaded.
Is that what happened? Is that what happened after the taxes got put into place? Did people get robbed? Like, is that why?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm asking Rob's the historian. I'm asking him. Have you ever researched this stuff?
In terms of what? In terms of
the era when American taxes were introduced, they were available to the public. Is the reason they were taken away from the public was because of
security
rich people getting robbed, security risk.
Are you talking about taxes, like original taxes, like when we were
the original American taxes.
Oh fuck yeah! People were getting ripped off left and fucking right.
They became targets for every scammer in the universe. You know?
I mean, that's why we instituted half the restriction laws that we did,
and
why the banks and everything have to keep. That's why everything is so.
I didn't
Social
know what the
Security.
Was. I appreciate
that's why everything is so Social Security numbered based, so that they have to look up everything to a secure setup.
Wait, did we not have? We had Social Security numbers before that, right? Before taxes were introduced, right?
Did we have Social Security? Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean by taxes introduced. Taxes have been around since the beginning of fucking time.
No, in the American government, because the American government was originally founded on the idea of not paying taxes to the government, and then eventually they succumbed to it and they said, we're going to start paying taxes, and everybody was able to view everybody else's tax records in the beginning. But did they have Social Security numbers before the American system introduced taxes? I wonder.
Social Security started in 1930.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
1935, Social Security started. But it wasn't a privatized system the way that we think about it. It wasn't. I don't know how to explain it.
It was like a pet project. It didn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say it. In 1935, the regulation system wasn't quite. We think about the world that we live in today. We think about the world that we live in today with all these restrictions and all of these like kind of security guidelines that are in tail, like as if they've been around for like ever, and they're actually quite new. We kind of let the fucking ball roll for 20 some odd years, where it was kind of like open access on the country. I think as we got more involved in the world market, and especially since technology has become a lot more integral to our lives, the last 20 years, a lot of that stuff has become a little bit more intense. I'd say from the 80s, Pat, would you agree? Like mid 80s, 90s is when
probably
all of that security measures started to break in, because
that late. Oh, I guess so. Right. Yeah. No, I do remember
90s,
that.
probably.
I remember when people's identities started getting stolen. Like I remember there was a time when that didn't happen.
Yeah. By the time you got to the mid 90s, hackers were already working their magic. You know what I mean? And I don't think they were doing it on the grand scale that they maybe were doing in the early 2000s, but computer technology had certainly been around for long enough for hackers to get involved and start breaking into, the Fed and shit like that.
It's always completely crazy to me that the banks eat that shit. Like when
Stones, when you're done, I'm going to hit the chat, dude. Go ahead.
When it's completely just known that a hacker, like the people can prove that they didn't buy this shit, and a hacker got into a system and fucking spent the money. It's completely bananas to me that the banks just eat that shit. They just fucking write it off as just like a regular expense.
So
I mean, you got to think.
I was saying before, though, the whole thing with the stable coins is going to be backed up by a basket of assets or commodities. Cool. It's going to be like backed up. They're going to have to say, oh, we have this much oil, we have this much gold, we have this much silver.
Yeah, but OPEC, that's bullshit, they just say whatever they want.
I know it sounds like bullshit, but it's going to have to be like that, because people aren't going to want it just to be thin air. So even Venezuela,
so you're saying it would be similar. It would be similar to how modern American banks have to guarantee the fact that you won't lose your assets, and how all the protective measures of the Federal Trade Commission and the FDIC and all that shit, they all have to go in and say, well, we have you. It will come up with the money if it's lost.
We have this much oil that we could sell off if something happens. That's what they need to show. And it's not going to just be one thing. It's going to be a basket of tons of different shit.
Yeah, like for us, it would be like defense spending and shit like that.
Yeah, they show it like they do the armory. You know what I mean?
Exactly like that. Man. So I just want to say what's up to Justin, who's in the chat. Mike Pepe's in the chat. Madison is still in the chat. Dion is in the chat. And we got a couple of questions. Mike Pepe had said we taught the Afghans how to fight and gave them weapons and money, and but it is in the ass. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that meant.
Bit us.
Oh. In a sense, they're just embroidering death shrouds and calling them blankets. 9/10/2001, Mike Pepe said the Fed lost $12 trillion, and the next day the towers went down, and we never heard about that money ever again.
I feel like that number gets bigger over time.
I feel like it does too, because I feel like it used to be $3 trillion.
It was $2 billion. It was actually $2 billion.
$2 billion. Okay.
Yeah. That's what it was.
I thought it was in the trillions though, because I thought
no,
that
it wasn't no trillions.
I remember
$2 billion.
I remember that scumbag. What was his name? The guy who was the head of war back then. The old guy.
Norman Schwarzkopf?
No, the guy who wore the glasses in the early 2000s. Not Cheney. Rumsfeld, right? Yeah. I kind of remember him going on TV and being like, $2 trillion is going. Oh no.
No, you know where that money went? It went to fucking Halliburton. Dick Cheney's
That's what I figured.
Shit.
That's what I figured. And and he said we never heard about that money ever again. And that goes back to what I was saying a few weeks ago, where you know conspiracy theorists I think would say they knocked the towers down just so they had an excuse to get away from this, among other things. And I always say that I'm not really sure about that type of thing anymore. I just think that they're really, really good opportunists. And they took the opportunity to sweep that shit under the rug and pretend that, you know, it never even fucking happened. 90% of U.S. currency isn't worth the paper it's printed on, Justin said.
It's true.
I know pennies are fucked.
Pennies are actually the closest in value than any other coin or paper.
Really?
In terms of what they're made
I've
of.
Heard that,
because
I've heard that
it's
pennies
1.5 cents. Or it's like the copper's worth like 0.75.
It's worth more.
Yeah,
I thought the metals was worth more than the coin itself.
Yeah, usually. It depends on the year. Anything like pre-81 or 80 is worth more than it is denomination wise.
I have a penny from 1910. I wonder what that's worth.
Does it have the Indian?
Worth a penny. That's what it's worth.
Yeah.
Does it have the wheat logo?
It does. It does. I do. No. I don't know what the Indian head pennies have on them.
It's a wheat logo.
I know. I realize now saying it that it's actually a racistly named penny.
It's an Indian head penny.
Right. My whole life they've called it Indian head penny for people who aren't fucking Indians. They're Native Americans.
Like Pepe just said, it costs 5 cents to mint a penny and 9 cents to make a nickel.
Yeah, and some pennies are worth like 2 cents. So the margins.
Oh man, I want like 500,000 pennies worth 2 cents so that I have $1 million.
What's a quarter going for these days?
Well, quarters are partly made out of aluminum now, right? Like they're just like Pepsi
when they
cans.
were part silver, they were worth something.
Right. They're so much shinier too. Those pennies, those quarters.
They sound different in the pocket too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you hear it rattle.
They clink a little on a lower tone.
They sound like tin. How much am I getting for them JFK half dollars these days?
50 cents.
I got some $2 bills too, man. I wish we had $2 bills. When I was in Ireland and they handed me a handful of $2 coins and I could buy beers with $2 coins, that was fucking amazing.
That's great.
It was awesome.
Coin for a beer.
Mm-hmm.
You know they still make the $2 bill. That's actually a thing.
Yeah, they got newer generations, but like they don't do it every year. They do it every few years or something.
So I just want to run to the chat for a second. Wayne, Uncle Wayne's in the chat. Aaron's in the chat. Madison asked Sarah and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because I don't think you guys you are into this, but she asked us what we thought about the last episode of The Mandalorian. She said she freaked out when she saw R2-D2. I just want to say that I don't care how embarrassing it is that when Luke Skywalker appeared, I teared up. I definitely teared up. It was, listen, man, I don't give a fuck. Fuck you, Pat. Listen, I got to tell you something. I see you. I see your judgmental smile. Listen. All right?
Yeah.
I can't help it. I am invested in Star Wars. It makes me feel good and I forget about the whole shitty dumpster fire world when I watch Star Wars. So when Luke Skywalker appeared on the screen, it was just a really amazing moment. And it was something that was your brain has a hard time comprehending what you're seeing, because I thought they did it rather well, not great. The deepfake people did it great. Yeah, like if you watch what they did in The Mandalorian versus what deepfake people did, they mastered it. Like I feel like they should go back into The Mandalorian and re-edit the deepfake in, because I feel like it would look better. But I loved it. I thought they did a good thing, and I felt like they were able to give the fans what they wanted without having to be cheesy to do it. It was a completely and fucking utterly logical thing that you would see the characters that you saw, and that you would see Luke Skywalker. And honestly, for me, I think Boba Fett is almost more exciting, though. I love Boba Fett. I love any character that doesn't really pay allegiance to anyone. It's the same kind of reason that I think I'm drawn to characters like Deadpool. Like, Deadpool is a good guy, but he's also a fucking piece of shit at the same time, and I really enjoy that.
I thought Mandalorian happened like way before that timeline, though.
Before what timeline?
The whole Luke timeline.
No. So Luke would be in his late 20s, early 30s at the start of The Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
So
I haven't seen it yet.
He would be just at the point where he would have developed a whole new Jedi school. So he would be training. Not yet. Look, I don't even know why I'm. Sarah's the authority. I'm like 10th in command.
Yeah. Thanks for telling us all about your feelings, Rick. I really appreciate your review.
Hey,
now.
Fuck you, Stones. Fuck you and your feelings. Fuck you and your fucking murder den.
Your murder den.
Got the ropes on the wall and shit.
You and your murder den.
All that blood he's covering up.
It's a lot better than that little weird oil room he used to look like he was in, or that like late night stroll he was taking in the middle of the dark, staring at people and fucking looking for bodies to bring home.
I was like, oh man, no one's out.
Goddamn pandemic.
Crazy. Oh no, he used to do it while the pandemic was on.
Yeah, in the beginning. I was walking around going,
right before we got locked down, we did 1 or 2 home shows, and it was like, oh shit, he's out again.
Yeah.
Trying to interview somebody, couldn't find nobody to interview.
Yeah.
It's funny that Pat said the ropes on the wall. The only thing I noticed was the skateboard hanging from the ceiling. I didn't see the ropes back there, and now I'm really concerned. I'm really fucking concerned, because those are like rappelling lines. Like, who you use to tie that shit up, man?
Dude, I got some rope. No shit, dude. I have 6,000 feet of rope.
You're not helping the case here. You know that, right?
That's a lot of victims.
6,000 feet of rope. Pull a jeep out of a canyon.
I don't know. This is the first. Let me tell you what. Right after the murder happens, this is the video that the feds are going to be looking for, and I'm pretty sure, based on our previous comments, we're all going to fucking jail.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to interview me through the door, because I'm not opening it for anybody. Do you know a guy named Stones? I'll be like, no.
I know a guy named Mike, and he's not related to Stones.
Oh, man. Hey, you guys know that Betty White's 99 years old today? Or yesterday?
I don't believe it.
Believe it, Pat.
She's really 99?
99. 99, she's partying still, man.
Nah, she's not 99. That's crazy.
I don't know, man, but my sister said it best when she said that woman's a national treasure.
I guess she is turning 99. Holy shit, look at that.
If there ever was a national treasure, it would certainly be Betty White. I'm on board for that.
She's got to hit 100, or something's not right with the world.
Right, agreed.
That's your barometer?
Yeah.
That's your fucking
If Betty
barometer?
White dies before she hits 100, we're fucked.
Yeah,
Pat's talking about fucking like
perfectly normal. Not 80 other people didn't die yet that were really significant in the world. Betty White's really gonna push the envelope.
Yeah, man.
By the way, I'd save Betty White before I'd save a lot of people. She seems like good shit.
Betty White, all jokes aside, looks like she's 70.
No shit.
Yeah, no doubt.
And she parties, man. She parties.
they say the first person to live to 130 is alive right now. So who knows?
It might even be one of you.
In actual 130, or like they didn't keep track of his actual age and they're just saying they're 130.
Sarah, I'll be surprised if anybody on this feed right now stays alive longer than 75.
75 is so fucking optimistic, dude.
I was trying to be kind. That was me being kind.
So can I bring up something else here?
Nope.
All right,
So over. That's it. Done.
I shared this article recently, and it was about Sarah, can you mute your mic? It was an article, and the title is "Gorillas Test Positive for Coronavirus in San Diego Park." Okay. So the most popular comment.
Who was banging the gorillas?
So the most popular comment was
Stan March. Stan March is banging the gorillas.
And I'm sorry, but this is going to open up a whole new conversation because I want to talk about the way people respond to anything anymore. Like somebody posted, I don't know, it might even been one of you guys, but somebody posted the other day, here's a picture of a rock. Now let's see if people can argue about this. And people were able to argue about it. So this article,
I feel like that was stones.
it's a mineral.
I agree.
So somebody posted this article, Gorillas Test Positive for Coronavirus at San Diego Zoo, and this was the top comment that I read. Oh, great. Gorillas are able to get tested, but not people. Nice. And I gotta say,
they're not wrong.
I was like, I don't. What? How is that what you took away from this? The fuck?
That's a genius interpretation / observation, though, Rick. Like,
let's be careful with the word genius. It's definitely different.
Hasn't genius been like a little watered down at this point? Like, nobody
like, man, this old ass ape looks like he's having trouble breathing.
Yeah.
Quick, get a test kit. No, I need that for my grandmother. Fuck your grandmother.
Quick, somebody shove
I'm keeping this gorilla in quarantine any longer than he has to be.
I think the oldest orangutan just died.
How old was he?
Like 70s or something.
Damn.
99 didn't make it to 100.
It's not as good as Betty White.
Hey, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth, motherfucker.
But my point is that I feel like when I
61.
The other day, I pulled up a video on YouTube and Sarah was sitting here and I said, "Look, the comments are turned off." That's a bigger trend that I'm seeing more and more on everything on YouTube lately. And then Sarah was showing me a video on her computer, and I said, "Look, the fucking comments are turned off." And last show I talked about how I noticed this like trend that nobody's talking about, where the comments are starting to be more routinely shut off for things. And I asked you guys how you felt about that because I wondered, like on a show like this where like we're live, we want to interact with people, we want to agree with people as much as we want to debate with people like that. That's what it's for. But some people put things out and they go, "Yeah, I don't fucking really care what you think. Either you like it or you don't like it. If you don't like it, move on," right? But I also feel like there's an entire culture of people that sort of sit on the edge of their seat, just waiting to say to anyone online, no, you're wrong, stupid. And like, when this article came out and that being the top comment, oh, great, gorillas are getting food. And like, to me, that was the same thing. It was that sort of fucking response to everything. And it's like, I'm like more concerned about the fact that gorillas can also spread coronavirus than I am about whether or not somebody's shoving a Q-tip up their nose and testing them for it. Like, I feel like that's something I want to know.
Well, gorillas wouldn't get it if they weren't in the zoo, though. So we're giving it to the gorillas.
You always have a way of finding the actual root of the problem, and I totally agree with you. 100%.
Also, the darkest perspective of it. Yeah, for sure. Probably.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, man.
It sucks that we can make animals sick like that.
Yeah. But why? Why do people psychologically sit in the edge of their seat ready to fucking tell you what an idiot you are at all times?
I got involved in a bit of a dispute recently with a female posted an article about the quote unquote husband stitch, and I was unaware that the husband stitch has been apparently thoroughly demonized as a valid medical procedure that is not one that happens when the woman is unconscious. I had no clue that was the term used. And I understand that the term...
I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
The term itself perpetuates the patriarchy 100%. And I totally agree with the fact that if in certain circumstances, so the basic narrative now of what the husband stitch is the woman is unconscious and the husband agrees with it, or drugged up, and the husband agrees with the doctor in order to do some type of reconstructive surgery directly after childbirth.
Is that true? Does that happen?
Husband, but it's uncomfortable.
What do you mean? Believe she just said, "Are you kidding?
Happen.
This is a real thing. Like you can authorize that."
Here's the thing. In the United States, especially.
No. Stop for a second. Sarah, turn your microphone on. What did you just say?
I said, dude, most women aren't even okay to get their fucking tubes tied if they're allegedly younger than the doctor thinks she should be, because one day she or her husband might decide otherwise. So why are you shocked about any of this?
Look, listen, man. Like, it's just not my reality. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't live this every day. So I need to hear this.
Wait, Rick.
Fucking insane.
Rick, you didn't ever consult getting your tubes tied before?
I never had to have a consultation. I never had to visit anybody.
Obviously,
you live in a country where women needed to be approved up until like 85 to get birth control by either their father or their live-in husband.
Dude, look, listen, no matter how much shit I know, that there are certain levels of oppression.
1985. Why is Betty White going down to get birth control? Because she fucks. That's why. Because she fucks.
I have no doubt about it. But it's just another level of oppression that I don't experience on an everyday basis. And no matter what I know historically, I'm still no less astonished when I hear certain things and that they're okay. And it pisses me off, and it makes me it just makes me upset, because I'm like, fuck, I wish I knew that, because that's really fucked up.
What kind of surgery are we talking about, though?
Let me tell you about my knowledge of what the husband stitch is as a person that's lived longer than these articles have. Is that the husband stitch in a lot of cases was if you had, and I know women that have went through this, if you had an unruly childbirth where you were really pretty damaged down there.
Unruly.
Right? That there is a procedure that was done weeks later after the general healing had been done, because reconstructive surgery was going to be the only option, that there's something crudely referred to as the husband stitch. So when they were talking amongst themselves about this crazy husband stitch fucking, this is the worst thing ever, I was like, look, I get it. The term perpetuates the patriarchy. And if you want to argue the crudeness of the term, I'm all in. I was like, but the worst thing I can see for any of you guys here is that you silently judge a person who could have happily, voluntarily gotten a procedure done that they're completely happy with, and you're going to start silently judging their relationship and trying to save her and get her away from him, thinking that she's mentally abused. So of course she's going to say these remarks or something fucking crazy like that. The attacks that I got on this thread were overwhelming.
By playing devil's advocate? Just by making a
sourcing my material. I sourced my material, and the rebuttal on my sourced material was, oh, this article only mentions husband stitch once. And they highlighted the sentence, and I was like, all the sentences beneath it were like, a bunch of people get this done in this circumstance, and within 6 months, 95% of them are happy with the, with the outcome of the surgery. And I'm like, okay, so you highlighted the one sentence where it's mentioned once, but we're just going to ignore all the sentences that surround this fucking thing? And how in the beginning of this article, they talked about how controversial statements exist and that, you need to understand that there is truth on both sides of that equation. But no, we fucking buzzword ourselves into this like box and we just run with it. And look, like I said, if the argument is to get rid of the patriarchal term of something that is referred to for a man in a woman, let's do that. But I'm not going to think automatically that a woman has been abused to make that happen either. I'm going to try and get some details. I'm going to try and dig a little bit and see where she was at and see if she, honestly wanted that to happen and is happy with it. Not, I'll be like, oh, did you get it that day? Or did you get it like a couple weeks later? Like, what's the story?
Can I just say that? Can I just say that?
Attack, bro.
In the chat, Justin had said the root of most problems is humanity. Chill Smith is in the chat. What's up, Chill Smith? He said, and Justin also said, yes, the doctor asked me when my ex had her baby, the same thing. And Chill, I just said, Rob, that like, I didn't know anything about this. Like I never heard this. And Chill Smith just said, this is also news to me. And I think this speaks to me, I think it speaks to a certain level of oppression where like when your minute to minute life is not someone else's life, it's very hard to know even things that are common that are going on around you. Like
right.
how the fuck do I not know? So hold on. So no, I want you to say what you got to say, but I also want to say that for people who think there's no racism, I think it's the same thing. Right. You're taking your day-to-day life, your minute-to-minute life, right. but 100%. You don't understand another person's minute-to-minute life. Even in the country that you live in together, you couldn't possibly know. I'm sorry, do you go ahead? Stones.
Also, that stitch is that's not common in other. That's not like a worldwide. Just like this fucking endless amount of C-sections that we give to women just for whatever fucking reason all the time.
Oh, it's scheduling. Because the doctor doesn't want to deal with it. Doctor doesn't want to bother with it.
Thing. That's like something for us to be proud of. But basically, the idea of stitching her up tighter than she needs to be. But leaving the woman in pain because it's fucked up.
No, but in again, according to the very long article that went into some depths of the history of genital abuse or genital what's the fucking mutilation. That was something with them, yeah, mutilation. They go into history, they go into how the terms are controversial, but then they also talk about this specific thing. They talk about the specific surgery. They go into detail about what that title, which is also called a husband knot, and there's a couple other slang terms for it, that they go into that specific procedure as a legitimate voluntary procedure that happens weeks after childbirth.
Were you going to say husbandoscopy? Husbandoscopy?
Husband knot was another one that they call
husband knot.
But there's a large amount of voluntary situations where people are happy with the procedure.
I don't understand what your argument is. Like, because something is sometimes I don't get it. Like, if you what is your argument? Like, this thing that happens unnecessarily at times, also at other times could be necessary based on the person. Like
because the people I was fighting with about it completely rejected the idea that it could have possibly been a voluntary, happy situation for all parties, and nobody was complaining. That was my only gripe with the issue. That was my only point to get across to these people, and I was attacked for trying to just portray a different perspective of what that terminology has, at least in the past, meant. So don't automatically judge the dude that she's with or her for fucking going through it. That's my only point. That's it. Nothing more than
at least a smidgen of people in that comment thread that might have just been women who've experienced it firsthand.
I mean, don't you think the sheer topic of it?
What is inflammatory? So we can. It's inflammatory. It's inflammatory, so we can't have an honest conversation about it. Is what
no,
Rob
I
said.
think
is like you're acting like there was this pure rage, and I like you have no idea what could possibly have been behind any of it. And it's like if someone was talking out of their own personal experience, they might not want to hear from the guy who looked it up in an article.
I didn't just look it up. No. I initially portrayed an anecdotal personal experience with somebody that I know that had the procedure done. That was it. And they were completely happy with it. It's completely voluntary.
Situations where if a female has atrophied muscles to a severe degree, they might need that surgery.
They were calling it. They're like, no, that's not the husband stitch. That's reconstructive surgery. I'm like, no, they got the fucking husband stitch. It's this specific surgery. The doctor used a crude term for it. And I was.
I'm sorry. I don't understand what the argument is here. You're arguing about the name of the procedure,
right? That they were hell-bent on that specific title of that procedure could only mean this crazy, hellish circumstance for that procedure. And my only hope was to educate them that in certain circumstances, it's not what this is portraying, this title of a thing that sometimes happens to be. Okay. That's it.
So listen. So to me, in my mind, the way you solve this issue is if a woman gives birth and it's expected that she might be incoherent, that instead
obviously you need consent, and it can't be
just asked beforehand.
Pat, I was going to say the same thing. I don't understand why the my problem is not. I mean, look. I have a problem with the term because the term is a patriarchal bullshit thing.
Right. It is. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. It's just another male grasp on the verbiage and the mentality of the situation. So I get that. But again, like Pat said, I don't understand why consent just can't be given ahead of time. Like, look, like 6 months into pregnancy, I feel like a doctor should sit down and be like, listen, when you give birth, X, Y, and Z could happen. What would you like us to do in that situation? Right. Yeah. Rather than the screaming monster dripping with goo is right here, and you turn to the husband and go, "No, what?" Like it seems really irresponsible.
No, I think you describing a newborn baby as a monster is irresponsible.
Look, listen to me, Rob. I'm going to tell you something that I told somebody recently, which is I'm 41 and childless, which means I'm happy and I get to do whatever the fuck I want. So
that doesn't mean that every child's a fucking monster, Rick. You just
fuck you, Rob. Let me tell you something. If there's any blight on this planet, it's human beings, little maggots growing up.
Instead of dropping beer off at your house, I'm gonna start dropping off Cabbage Patch dolls and shit like that.
Yeah, you know, and I'll post videos of me burning them in the street and calling them monsters.
You can't go out to the street.
Don't think I won't burn something in my own sink. Don't think I haven't gotten to that point after 10 months of quarantine. I will make a damn fire.
Yeah, for sure.
I will make a damn fire if needs be.
Just acting like a caveman. It's like that scene from Zoolander where they're smacking the fucking computer because they don't know how the computer works.
Chill Smith said, I also have no children, so it hasn't been relevant in my personal life, but I'm glad I'm aware of this now. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what I'm saying, man. Like, if you don't live through something, if it's not your reality minute to minute and day to day, it's very easy for you to not really know what's going on for another person or another people. Whether they be a different gender or a different race or different anything.
And I just wanted to lay
Justin
some of
said
that
in the
reality
chat
out there.
Justin said in the chat that he had a doctor ask him that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fucked up.
I think that's insane. I think that's completely insane. And again, another thing I just didn't know. And now that I know, I think that's terrible. That's all.
Agreed. I agree that act in an involuntary situation is awful. And I agree that the name should be deleted.
Yeah, it needs to be changed. Look, man, look. I used to make fun of this kind of thing. You know what I mean? I used to think that people were being too soft and all this other kind of shit. But that's really nonsense. George Carlin said it best. We think in language. And we do. And the language helps to dictate, who's in charge and who has the upper hand and a lot of different things. The way you communicate really fucking matters. So, to that end, I agree with that term needs to be changed. That's fucking terrible. I don't like that fucking shit. I don't like any fucking, again, it's shit, some shit I used to make fun of, but I've grown up a bit, the more that I study. And I've just come to realize that certain things in terms of language, they fucking matter. If they hurt somebody and they're not good, then what the fuck do I care? If you don't
You
like
sound
that,
like you care. You sound like you care. You sound like you care.
I do care. And what do I care about dropping stupid language is what I mean. Let's see. Chill Smith said, I understand that what he's saying, but I also agree with Sarah. I don't think women want to hear a man tell them about a problem they face. And Chill Smith, that's the other reason why I always say that when it comes to the subject of abortion, I think anybody with a dick needs to stay the fuck out of it.
So what's the alternative there? Do I get a woman to tell other women how the experience could be voluntary and okay and fine?
I want to hear.
Maybe you just try for just one.
What if a woman wrote the article?
Reel in your undying urge to constantly be contradictory to what everyone says, even in situations where you actually fucking agree with the person.
No, I agree with the person
being devil's advocate just starts to look like a guy with a lot of shitty opinions.
I don't want hate to be had unjustly. Dig a little. Dig a little. Just a little bit. Dig. Find out what the fuck actually happened if somebody tells you that that's what happened to them.
I'm fucking terrified.
Just jump the fucking
You are so close to the camera yelling at me right now that I just shit my own pants.
That's it. How is that a wrong?
I know,
Let me
Rob.
ask
I
you
wish I
this.
had a washcloth to pat my face off.
What about the women that are the doctors that perform it? What if
a woman came up with the term husband stitch?
It's still wrong. It's still wrong. That's the whole
definitely.
thing. But that's the whole thing. It's still
my thing.
it's the same fucking reason why Candace Owens doesn't get to say anything about how black people feel, because she's a fucking sellout. Who gives a shit what the fuck? We all know that. We know she's a piece of shit.
But here's the trivial part of all of that. Huh? Is she? And I've had a hard time.
Who is she?
Candace Owens is a black woman who tends to stand up for things that are pretty fucking racist against black people.
She is a Republican who is a very controversial anti-left extremist kind of anti-social. She's kind of an aristocratic African American woman who thinks what?
There's a lot of ways to communicate. There's a lot of ways to communicate.
Hold on.
And Candace Owens is a paid shill. Before you lose it, okay?
I know goddamn well who Candace Owens is, and I know goddamn well what I don't like about Candace Owens.
Okay.
I'm trying to mildly explain it, and you're jumping on me like I'm fucking stones.
Yo. The husband stitch, coined term by Sheila Kitzlinger.
Yeah?
Sheila Keats.
Of
Yeah,
course
in a
it was.
1994 book, the year after childbirth, surviving and
Sheila
enjoying the first year
Kitzlinger.
of motherhood.
It was a
So
woman.
it was a woman that
came up
coined
with
the term.
It was a woman that came up with the fucking term.
Yeah, and what year was that, Pat?
1994.
1994.
Fucking
When
like 8 years
patriarchal
ago.
thinking might have reached its peak.
So
I'm
back
saying.
to Candace Owens. Back to fucking Candace Owens. Okay? Candace Owens, Sarah, condescendingly talks to people about how, like, if black people are upset about things, they should fix it. Or if they're kind of reacting about police shootings, they're overreactive because it could happen anywhere. And that all of these things are kind of part and parcel of society in the areas that they live, not because of the color of their skin. And it incites people crazily. And she gets shut down constantly. But my question for Rick is she a sellout? Or are you just saying that because she's black, like refer to somebody as Uncle Tom?
Okay,
like,
no. She's a sellout because she's willing to accept money from groups of people who would rather oppress people who look like her because she's getting money for it, and she has a history.
That's what you think it is? You think she's financially gaining off the backs of black people? She is
financially gaining. That's a fact. That's a fact. She's taken money from white supremacist sympathizers. So Chill Smith just said, Candace Owens panders. She knows what she's doing. She's a smart woman, but she's not on the right side, and wrote that she's definitely a sellout. And
I
agree.
I agree. I agree with everything that you're saying, and I agree with Chill, but I'm saying
she's a great capitalist. She's a great capitalist. She found a niche. But I don't think being a great capitalist means you're a great person.
Okay.
Donald Trump's a great capitalist. You know what I mean?
Understand that.
She figured it out. She said, look, here's a gap in the market.
I would say that my argument would be that to be the greatest of capitalists, you would almost have to be a bad person. I don't know if I could think the opposite.
Well, it's kind of like when people when the women's marches were happening with the pink hats and everything, and I read women on fucking line talking about why are these women doing what they're doing? What is this fucking point? Like, to me in my head, everybody that said something that to me, like said that out loud, was like, oh, you're one of those trophy wife bitches who just they don't want to work, they don't want to, they don't care about independence because they have everything taken care of and they've been raised in that kind of upbringing.
That's it, Rob. Well, you just said there, that's it. So listen, when you think about a human being's ultimate potential, I think about the things that contain that potential. Right. So you're talking about people who were raised in a world where you're talking about housewives who want things to stay a certain way, and it's because they've also been raised to believe that the best way is this structure.
Place.
Right.
That's their place, is to fucking find a husband who can support a household of 5 off one income.
And what do you see when you see people like that? Because what I see, and I might be wrong, are people who are not actually free.
Not at all.
Okay, good. Because that's what I mean. Like they've also been indoctrinated into a system that says, "Hey, here's your American dream, motherfucker."
Can I share something with you that really bothered? Because
yes,
there's
please.
2 things that's always there's two things that's always bothered me, and I studied them greatly in college because they were to me fascinating. Now, we've talked about racism and race on this show a million times, and it's always been part of, and it's something that's been part of my research and my background for as long as I've been in college, and we'll leave that there. But the other thing that's always kind of gotten me was gender roles, right? And the idea of gender appropriation, or the idea that there is things that, because I studied marketing and I studied corporate kind of advertising and what happened in the 1950s and the 60s, what happened in the 30s, and how that was all gender kind of related. And something that blew my mind, I just want to share this quick kind of like story with you that I could not fucking believe.
Please.
I had a conversation with a person who is about 20 years old, about a week and a half ago. And it was just a kind of a passing conversation where it was, I was asking how she was doing, what her life was about. She wasn't a student of mine, but she went to school at our institution, and I had met her a couple of times because she came on trips with me. So I know her. So I don't feel weird asking certain questions about how her life is going, because I've helped kind of organize her classes and dealt with things. And I said, how's things going and what's going on? And she works for her own self. She's got her own little business at a home. She works at another place. She's a hardworking person. She goes to college full time. She's going to graduate and move on to another institution, and so on and so forth. And she's a straight A student. And I was like, so what are your goals? What do you think you're going to be doing? And she's like, I don't really know. I'm still trying to figure it all out. She goes, I didn't really expect myself to be in college because my dad never wanted me to be in college. And at that point in time, I kind of stepped back and I was taken back by that comment, because I don't know anybody almost, and I exaggerate there, but I don't know anybody really that doesn't want their kid in college. Because almost everybody wants their kid to be educated at some level, to be able to get a job, not because of the educational value, but because they think it equates to jobs. That's the downfall of our generation. We've accepted that buying a fucking degree is going to get you a job somewhere, and that's really fucking annoying as a higher ed instructor. But so I sat back and I said, okay, you need to explain that to me. I need to understand what the fuck you're talking about. And in my head, all I can think of was, okay, this is a misogynistic father. Because if you don't want her to go to college, you want her to do what? What is it that you want?
Wife
to do, right?
shit.
And at the end of 4 minutes of that conversation, what I gathered was that the dad basically told her she doesn't need to go to college because she will end up a domesticated housewife at some point. And that she doesn't need to worry about those aspirations because she'll find a husband one day. And I had to ask her, I had to further pry. I was like, okay, so what does dad do for a living in a world that we live in right now that you can live off a single person's income? And, I kind of had my own assumptions, and sure as hell, I was dead on. And it was like, I was kind of taken aback over the fact that there are still people that he's probably about, I'd say maybe 10 years older than me. You know what I mean? And to know that someone is raising a child, to think that that's your aspiration, that's what you're going to do in life, is to be someone's wife, and that's it. I have ultimately called myself a feminist for the last 15 years of my life. Not that I am an active feminist.
So does that mean that you're against people that desire that life? Is that what you're saying?
Fuck yeah.
Whoa. Hold on a minute.
Fuck yeah,
Whoa. Somebody who desires that life, that's different than being told you're supposed to desire that life.
I understand that. I was asking the question.
Well, I mean, isn't the opposite you're just a fucking gold digger? Like, isn't the opposite of that you're just fucking looking to take somebody else's wealth and live off of their income because that's what you think?
If that's the arrangement and both parties are happy with it, I'm all for it, man. Personally,
I understand.
Yeah, but you're also talking about personal happiness. You're not talking about a structured fucking. Daughter of mine's going to go to college.
No, I'm not. I know.
We're not talking about an organized upbringing. We're not talking about like aspirational goals, or that your kid marries into some wealthy status so that they don't ever have to work. That's
maybe he was just reminding her that that's a pretty good option for her.
This is proactive, not only both in her collegiate work, but in working in general.
And
was told that she shouldn't be doing the job she's doing because she shouldn't be prepared to have to work.
The right thing to do is to look at any human being who's emerging and becoming themselves and saying, what do you want out of life?
I think a lot of parents,
and I think that's it.
I think a lot of parents clip their kids' wings
100%.
Intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. I think that's
I'll bet you everybody in this show is around the same age. And I'll bet you in almost an American culturally speaking, all of our wings were clipped.
Try to shift away from that. At least a large. I mean, but sometimes you can't help it. It's because you don't realize it. Sometimes you have unintended consequences from the the shit you say or the way that your kids are raised.
How do you fix it, Stones?
You don't. You let it go and you let it see what happens, and then
you just let it go. Fuck
eventually.
Just tell your daughter not to go to college and marry a rich guy. You know, don't date a guy unless he's got a BMW like it's 1987.
I'll be honest with you. I was fucking speechless, Rick. I was speechless. I was like, wait,
let me get
this right. You work full time and go to school, and both of those things are something that you've alienated yourself from your dad over because he doesn't see that that's worthwhile for you, that there's no reason for you to be getting an education and there's no reason for you to be working because you're just going to end up marrying somebody who's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. What kind of parenting skills are those? Like what are you teaching somebody? You know,
just perpetuating the same.
Well, that's my point.
Right.
And that's my point. So to Stone's comment, his question to me is that do I to women who proactively seek that out, not only do I think that they're doing a grave disservice to themselves, but where did they find that as something that is beneficial?
The desirable outcome?
Right. That's what always bothers me. Go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry.
They came up with that structure for having kids. I'm pretty sure. Have the mother stay at home with the kids.
You're saying that the structure originally was built that way for that reason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, and I understand domesticated
now. I don't know.
I understand that. That's but in I mean that worked when the economy allowed that to happen.
Right.
And that worked when that was something of sustainability. I mean, you must be in another motherfucking tax bracket if you think that you're going to marry like.
It also worked when there was a certain religious overtone that said that men do this and women do that.
Wait, hold on. You don't necessarily have to marry in another tax bracket. You just have to have a girl with really low standards, brother.
Maybe you do, Stones, but I don't know about the rest of us out here.
I mean, either that or that humble that they just don't. I mean, I don't personally know any women like that. That was something outlandish to me. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, even the people that I know that could be considered gold diggers aren't really gold diggers. They work. They work. They just have high standards.
You know what it is? You know what it is, Rob? That's just another fucking term.
Yeah.
That was
it's just
spread out
with extra steps.
Right. Just another term that was spread over a group of people.
Well, my
in the same way that every term is.
If there are people like if there are people like that, right, raising a daughter like that, and she doesn't buy into it, she's obviously rejected it. But if there's somebody who's openly saying that to their daughter, what are they saying to their son? Like,
what they're telling their son is that this shit is yours.
Son, one day you're gonna grow up to marry a woman just like your sister.
Make sure,
right?
Like
100%.
You know what that means? You know what that means to me? It's like just hide the bruises. Make sure you hide the bruises.
I agree with you completely,
don't show the bruises to the public.
I agree with you, dude. And I got to tell you, man, like that's something that you figure out along the way. Like we're children of boomers, man. And like boomers have a whole other the ideology that you're talking about is a boomer ideology inherited from the ideology of their parents.
And let me tell you fucking something. I'll be perfectly honest and somewhat personal about this. Is that I have learned a lot about my own family and people that I'm close to, and nobody in particular, but like over generations where I have learned and sat back, and the people that I was like, wow, you know, I never thought about it like this, but this is actually what was going on the whole time. And it was really mind-blowing to me that 30 years later, you know, I'm like, you know, that's too young to realize it. But that's the same, like when we talk about generations having these types of lifestyles, abuse, patriarchy, that 1950s, to me, I call it the 1950s marriage.
Which is also the same as the 1980s. The 50s, the 1980s are just cyberpunk 1950s.
Yes, precisely. And when you look at it and you realize it of your own family.
Painful.
You understand, though, but then you understand almost all the other stuff, the fallout from that.
Sure.
You understand your grandparents. You understand your parent. You understand so many.
You understand what an asshole you may have been up until the point you realized that moment.
Oh, it's self-reflective as fuck.
Absolutely, it is.
And there are aspects of myself that I hate.
Me too.
That there's things I regret that I don't regret to the point where I call it regret, but there are things that I call remorseful over my actions and the way that I acted, and there are things that I can.
And why? Because you were taught that was normal, and that's a fucking problem.
Not only taught that it was normal, I wasn't even taught it. It was just there, and then sometimes it was encouraged. It wasn't like I wasn't bred to think that way, but I certainly wasn't told. My mother raised me right. She told me to have manners and respect.
Sure.
And I learned all that good stuff. But personal characteristics of myself, which in some cases I found at certain points in time comical, humorous, things that I wouldn't say that I'm completely ashamed of, but certainly feel the need to apologize to certain people about.
Sure.
But
I'm right there with you, man.
Those types of things, I think, are mind-blowing to me, that when you really reflect on how your family acts and the way that certain relationships happen between family members, and you look back at the people before you, generations before you, and you go, oh shit, they didn't care, they didn't realize it wasn't a big deal. But then you understand that in that point in time, that's just the accepted way of life.
That was the reality.
But that's also,
look, man,
that's also the great America that this guy wanted to make again. And that's what bothered me.
It meant America that was easy for him.
But that core mentality. Women know their place.
Right.
Minorities know their place.
Exactly.
Immigrants stay the fuck out of here.
Right.
We make money for us as Americans.
Right. This is my land. This is my car. This is my pussy. This is my this. This is my that. Because why?
And I knew it.
Because there's not a whole lot of us in a lot of space.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, but that's not what they tell you. They tell you that because you're a white male.
I knew it in that interview. I knew it in that interview on that bus. Not the grab the pussy part. I didn't give a shit about that. That was the money part of it, right? He was talking about how wealthy he was. But everything else, the smugness, the comments, and then as he started to talk more, but I don't mean to bring it back to politics, but that's what got me. And it wasn't that I started to look at people around me and go, you're fucking racist, you're a bigot, you're a piece of shit. It was that they heard it, and it rang in with them, and they encouraged it. And that point for me was like, you know what? Conservative or not, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't grow, you don't want to grow. You don't want to have an open mind. You don't want to think about anything differently. You want to be a piece of shit.
Right.
And
keep going. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
And
you want Christmas. You want Christmas all year long, man. That's what you want.
Fuck Christmas.
There it is. We're on Christmas. Rob, you're engaging in the war on Christmas.
Dude, I love Christmas as a holiday. But do you know how many people who fight for that? Will you put the Christ back in Christmas? They don't fucking give a shit about being with their family on Christmas. They're worried about the sheer notion.
The nostalgia
reeks.
Yeah,
the fuck out of here, dude.
The whole thing, man.
They all they can think about is A Christmas Story. That's all they're fucking thinking about. Shit like that, dude. They're not worried about actually being around their family. No. They're not worried about actually fucking they're not even worried about Christ. 3/4 of those people haven't been in a fucking church in 20 years. They're just there to be obnoxious. Dude, they're obnoxious. All these fucking holidays, they're all Hallmark invented. Get the fuck out of here with all that shit, dude. The fact that people are that touchy-feely about that shit, but then have the nerve to get mad at women protesting, the inability for equality, and black people being upset because black people are being killed in the street, and you're worried about a fucking makeshift holiday.
I can choose any holidays that I choose to celebrate and the ones that I don't want to, because there's a shit ton of holidays and maybe I don't want to celebrate all of them. And fuck you for fucking choosing for me, dickheads.
Somebody texted me the other day. It was just like, isn't it crazy how hypocritical some people are? And I was like, isn't that the norm now though? Isn't that the accepted norm that everything at this point in time is hypocritical? Everybody's a fucking hypocrite. And the sooner people start to realize that, maybe they can get over themselves for 30 fucking seconds, man. Like, I've had to accept a lot in the last like 3 or 4 years of my life where I've just kind of had to be like, you know what, I'm a bit of a prick, and I am wrong sometimes, and it takes a lot for me to admit I'm fucking wrong. I'm a stubborn motherfucker, and I have treated people like shit, and I have been, and that self-reflectiveness is, there's not enough people that do that. There's not enough people that sit back. They think that it's the end-all, be-all, the way that they were raised, the way that they are. I spent a majority of my life listening to people that were older than me say, well, I'm this age, I'm stuck in my ways.
Yeah,
I'm this age,
bullshit.
I'm stuck in my ways. And it's like, listen, you can't have a conversation with me and tell me that you're right because of all the experience you have if you haven't grown from any of that experience. So to tell me that you're stuck in your ways but you know everything, that's not stuck in your ways. You can't know everything and be limited to your point of view. That means nothing to me.
You know everything,
you know what I mean?
up until a certain point that it was acceptable to believe that the things you know are the things you think you know.
And that's
where... banana bread, man. Banana bread smells good.
It's one of my favorite Yankee candles. One of my favorite Yankee candles. I can't smell anything right now. I seem to have, in the last 20 minutes, lost my sense of smell. So.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Got that Rona.
I do, actually.
You do, right?
I do, yeah.
How are you doing?
Oh, that's a thing? That's actually a thing.
That's a thing, yeah, I have COVID.
I wasn't sure, Rob, if I should bring that up or not, but now that you've brought it up, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm congested as shit, but yeah. I tested negative on Monday, and a friend of mine who I had been around for a day or two tested positive the day after that, and 2 days later I had a 100-grade fever, and I couldn't get off the couch and down for the count. So the irony in that, the irony that I tested negative, and now I have to go back next week and just kind of follow up and get another test just to see. I mean,
was it
I know this is like kind of not worth bringing up, but I have to. Remember when you shaved your beard at the start of this because it was cleaner to not catch coronavirus?
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring
I didn't. No. For the record, I didn't shave my beard because it was cleaner because of the coronavirus. I shaved my beard because Stones guilted me into shaving my beard. 100%. For the record, Stones came out as a medical practitioner and said to me,
I was like,
"Hey,
what are you doing, bro?"
Yeah, Stones was like, "Hey, Rob, I see that beard there. I see that beard." And that was during the week.
What are you doing,
that
bro?
was during the
like,
week.
Oh, you're right.
There was like a week, like if you remember, like coronaviruses come with like big like inflammations of certain things, and that week it was all about beards and coronavirus.
Yeah, we were all up on the gas can that day.
A seal is a seal, That's the thing.
So Sarah, what are you getting at? That my beard grew out, and that's how I got fucking.
It might have.
No, that'd be weird if it was they were directly related. Like you were going to get your beard trimmed, and then you got corona from the barber.
Do I look like someone who gets their beard trimmed by someone?
Yeah,
I am
like
a beard aficionado. Thank you very much.
Kind of little gold scissors.
Robert, you can do me a favor. Would you shave your beard into the monkey tail? Have you seen that yet?
I would rather fucking shave my entire face than to do something so stupid.
Get out of here with that.
You know who started? That was a pitcher who started that in baseball.
I know.
And it grew out to like people are actually. It's like the same people who sent me. I remember about 5 years ago when that whole put the ornaments in your beard and cover it in glitter shit came out, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, people are really going to go fucking do that? And then I started seeing people pop up on my social media feed with it, and I'm like, Come on, dude.
You're going shopping, you got Christmas balls hanging off your chin.
Yeah, like if I'm hanging any
beard
balls
shaming?
off my chin, it's gonna be, it's gonna be real balls. You know what I mean?
Like truck
Like
nuts?
Yeah, truck nuts. Those big metal truck nuts.
You should write like a historical beards blog.
A historic, like why people did what they did when they did.
Well, that would be good too, but I
Beards.
just meant like marveling about the best beards of history.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's some really good ones. There's some really good ones.
Walt Whitman had a great
We've
beard.
missed out on? You know what I think we've missed out on? We haven't had a president with a fucking sick beard in a long ass time, dude.
Long time.
I
Who was the
actually
last one?
think-
Taft? Or did he have a mustache?
No, he had a mustache. I think
I can't
think
grow a real
Lincoln-
mustache,
I
so.
think Lincoln
might
may have
been
been
the last one.
I think Lincoln may have been the last beard.
Man, he
He
rocks
claimed
that
that
beard
jersey. He's claimed it.
They retired the number. That's it.
But seriously, think about how long ago. Think about how long it's been. It's been 150 years since the last president had a fucking
too. Sure.
beard. Then.
And Donald Trump can't grow a beard. Come on, let's be honest. He's got
It's
that
not the
beard.
president in 4 days, dude.
You wouldn't see it anyway.
You
probably,
could just like put more tanner around the bottom part of his face, but a darker color.
Oh no, I'm way off. The last president to have a beard, Harry Truman, had a beard at one point.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
What
he
year?
fucking
What
did.
year was that?
1945 or 46.
That's a long time for a presidency to be beardless.
It
That was a
long war.
massive beard. Truman had a fucking
1948.
beard, bro.
1948, and he had 1948, which he nicknamed the Jeff Davis.
Okay.
Why? Who's
Yeah,
Jeff
why? Who
Davis?
the fuck's Jeff Davis?
Jefferson Davis. Jefferson
Oh.
Davis.
Did he have a beard that was like a bib?
It was massive, bro. It was thick as shit.
He catches
Jefferson
like chunks of
Davis?
lobster tail in it and shit and butter.
Oh
Like the
my
guy
god!
from Trading Places on the subway in the Santa costume.
It's
The
not a guy.
turkey
It's
leg
not
through
a
the
guy.
beard.
That's the main character of the fucking movie.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd or whatever.
Dan
it's called.
Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd dressed
When
as
he- when
Santa
he's eating
Claus.
The salmon.
Yeah.
Through the beard hair.
You know, it's kind of concerning. First of all, it's kind of concerning that Harry Truman, right, had a beard that he called Jefferson Davis, who was the leader of the Confederacy in the fucking Civil War. How
What the
fucking
fuck, dude?
how concerning is that?
that's
You're
troubling.
dropping bombs. You're the guy who decided to drop bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and you're also
Well,
called
maybe it was a thing at the time. Like, you know how any time you see one of those mustaches that are really tiny, everyone calls it a Hitler mustache, like because he's the most famous person that ever had that mustache, but not the only one. So maybe
Yeah,
at the time,
Charlie
maybe at
Should
the
be
time
the Charlie
people
Chaplin
just called
stash.
maybe people just called those types of beards Jefferson Davis beards, just like Hitler mustaches. Like it was like just a,
yeah, I could. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, more like a Hitler. Like, oh, you got a Hitler mustache, and you know that you probably shouldn't.
How
You
messed
gotta
up
check-
is that Hitler ruined Charlie Chaplin costumes forever?
Forever, dude. And that sucks.
You could never be Charlie Chaplin for Halloween because people think you're Hitler.
And Charlie Chaplin's like, what the fuck, bro? Listen, guys, we are getting to the end of the show. Sarah, I want you to talk about the next show in 2 weeks. We're going to start a little earlier than usual. We're going to start.
I don't know what the date is yet, so I'm not even
okay.
gonna. But so we're gonna team up with Keith, who does something called Charity with Consequences, which we talked about on the last show until it turned into a shit show. So anyway, the charity that he's fundraising for is called No Kid Hungry, and basically they help kids obtain food, and they're especially important right now during the pandemic. They were the ones to help get increases in food stamp benefits and help kids get meals that weren't going to school and stuff like that. So Charity with Consequences. Basically, what is going to happen is for every $10 that Keith raises, he'll spend 10 seconds in the ice water up to 3 minutes and 40 seconds, which is the time he found out would kill him, or close enough.
I'm glad he read about it.
So he's actually almost at the $200 goal he set. There's only $35 left to reach that goal. So if anyone watching wants to donate and then watch the consequence on the upcoming episode that we'll announce, you just go to the Charity with Consequences Facebook page, and there'll be a link to the donation thing. So that way it'll count towards Keith's fundraising goal, and then he'll have to sit in the water longer. So he was originally going to do it in the back of an El Camino, but that might be a problem because we only broadcast at night, and he's not sure if he can light the situation up or not.
You just need a flashlight.
But I would say that an ice water bath in the back of an El Camino during the fucking apocalypse to raise money for fucking hungry children is like a lot of things smushed into one sentence that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be there. So yeah, if anyone's watching to help to donate to that, it'd be awesome. Help reach the goal, really close to the goal already. And in an upcoming show, probably by the end of January, I think, he'll be our guest for the night, and then we'll basically sort of simulcast.
Exactly.
In January, when the temperature's below freezing.
That's when it's fun, Pat.
That's
the whole back of the El Camino is gonna freeze like an ice cube.
Yeah, it is. And it'll blow out the fenders.
I can't wait. Sarah, where do people donate again?
If you just go to the Charity with Consequences Facebook page, he has a donation button up, so that way if people donate that way, it'll raise the tally of how much he's raised and increase the amount of time in the ice water.
Awesome. So we will keep you abreast of that. So is there anything that anybody would like to close with this evening before we close out the show?
Silence.
Okay, I guess.
Be mindful. Be mindful of other people. If it's one thing we've learned over talking about all of this stuff, be respectful and mindful of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I realized. There you go. Go ahead. Sorry.
If there's any good that can come of anything, really, is to be mindful of people, not in the fact that you have to be anti this or anti that to be able to be. It doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be something that is discoursed around some movement politically. It doesn't have to be something that is categorical. Just treat people like humans, man. Treat people like you would want to be treated, and respect one another, and understand that we fight this fight together, and it's something that should be uplifting for everybody rather than demeaning to everybody. All of it's in good humor when we joke around and we fight about things, and we ironically or in sometimes speak in a kind of satirical nature or sarcastic nature, but in reality, we all know the real deal behind it all. We're not like that, we're not looking to start shit. We respect one another's opinions, and we respect so many other people's opinions that it's I know it's hard, and I know that the upcoming months are going to be hard, and I know that people are going to be really edgy about everything that happens, and they're going to be very on edge, and they're going to be trying to push the envelope and piss people off, and we don't need that shit. We don't need that shit. So that's all I got.
Can I go?
I fear.
Yes, Stones, you can go.
I want to sum up Rob's words, I think, with an anecdotal revelation that I've had recently.
I hope it changes all our lives.
I've realized that I've definitely given out a lot more polite honks on my horn than I've received, and I just think that if people learned proper polite horn etiquette, the world would be a better place.
Hashtag horn etiquette.
I think the problem with people in horns is that they don't use them often enough to know how to use them and when to use them. They always like either miss the opportunity to beep at somebody when they should, or like, I don't know. It's just there's something I've noticed driving around every day.
Or hey, people use them at times when they're not necessary.
I'm not trying to startle you. I'm just trying to wake you up because I want to go too, man. Like, there's a bunch of line behind me.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a pandemic. Okay? So why don't you lighten up? Look, listen. Chill Smith left a link in the chat for the Charity with Consequences, so please check that out. I want to thank everybody who watched tonight and shared the show tonight and commented tonight and talked to us tonight and watched tonight. Please share it, encourage people to like the show and all that other good shit. We really love it when you are engaged. And I just want to say that I miss all you guys in real life. I've made a lot of sappy speeches on this show in recent months, but I will say that the first beer I opened tonight, I had this like really visceral moment where I missed opening beers for people who were here for the show. We've had full bands here and actors and comedians and political activists and all kinds of people here over the years. And I really missed the holy shit out of you guys and that whole fucking thing. So hopefully this year takes us to a place where we can do that again. So, I'm going to say goodnight to all of you.
Chill Smith is watching. I don't know if he's still watching or if he's not, but since he's there, just putting this out there, it'd be real awesome if you wanted to be a virtual guest on one of our upcoming shows and maybe do a performance at the end.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. So, yeah.
It's been a while now.
Get in touch with me and I'll get in touch with you. Let's do it. Let's hook it up. All right. Good night, you guys.
Night.
Talk to you all soon.
Guys.
Peace out.